It's a cold, nasty day today. Wind's blowing and it's drizzling rain, and I don't know what the temperature is, but it's chilly. It's supposed to clear up and warm up tomorrow and the next few days and get up into the 60s. And it probably will. We'll see. The engine is all done. It's all together. Everything's all buttoned up on it, hooked up the way it's supposed to be. Everything looks good on that. So the next thing, and kind of the last thing to do on the engine, is to put the propeller on. Well, that would go pretty straightforward if it was just mounting the propeller up there, but we got to get the prop spinner on there too, and that's got to be clocked on there right. So ideally you want to put the propeller on there so that it's up at a position where you can grab onto it if you have to hand start it to pull it to give it a snap through, so that it starts easier. But there's a certain pattern on those bolts and stuff it's got to go. And then the real thing that's kind of a challenge is to get the backing plate on there and the prop spinner and everything up on there to get those clocked right so that they match up to the propeller properly. Well, that didn't go quite as smoothly as I had hoped. That propeller is just too heavy for me anymore to lift up there by myself. There are 6 dowels in that flywheel, in that ring gear, for the bolts to go into. 6 bolts go through the propeller. 4 of those dowels stick out proud past the face of that flywheel. There are recesses in the propeller for the 4 bolts made up to, so there's only a certain position that prop can go on there, either 180 degrees from each other. And then the prop spinner, the bulkheads for the prop spinner, they have to be lined up right so that the grooves in the prop spinner, the cutouts in the prop spinner that fit over the propeller go in the right place, so all the holes for the nut plates and stuff to put the screws in are lined up right. Well, when I took that thing off of the other engine, I put marks on both bulkheads and on the propeller so they'd line up together. What I done before is I put that rear bulkhead up on the ring gear over those dowels, and then put the propeller up there and hung them on those dowels, and then put the front bulkhead on. But once you get that rear bulkhead on there, there's not very much of those dowels that stick out, and there's not enough to support that propeller on its own while I get the holes lined up and get the front bulkhead lined up. So I dropped the chain fall down. I moved it forwards so the prop would go up away from the engine, and put a strap on there on both sides and lifted it up and got everything all lined up and put on there. So I've got the bolts in there now. I've got them snugged down a little bit, enough to hold it on there. I've got to go in and look up to see what the torque value is on those now. There's a couple different torque values on that. The one for the prop hub is lower than the one for the prop and the engine, because you don't want to crush that carbon fiber hubs with the bolt heads on there. Well, anyway, I've got to go look that up and look up what my torque values are for that before I go any farther. But right now the prop is mounted up on there. It's just not finished yet. Well, there's what it looks like in the front, the 6 bolts in there. Like I said, I need to get those torqued down and safety wired. And then I don't think I'm going to put the spinner on until I get the inspection done on the airplane for the annual $100 an annual. Whoever does this might want to look at that before they close it in. I went and looked up the torque on these, and these are 1/2-inch bolts, so the torque is between 55 and 65 foot-pounds, pretty generous range. There was no torque tightening pattern on there. What I like to do is just go in kind of an X pattern, where you go, well, diagonally, do one, and then kind of do the ones opposite each other. I also like to kind of sneak up on it, so I'll do my torque up to, say in this instance we go on 55 to 65. I'll run everything up to 50 pounds to start with, and then just gradually work my way up. There's 50 on that one, 50 on that one. Alright, so those are torqued down. Now we need to get them safety wired. Well, I'll do that. Well, the propeller is safety wired on. Got those bolts safety wired. Well, everything on the engine is assembled now. Everything's pretty much done. About the only thing I can do now is, well, I'm going to check the timing on it just to make sure the timing is right. Just start it up, get it started, and make sure all the fuel flows and everything the way it's supposed to be, and it runs and idles. But otherwise, I'm pretty much done with this. I could put the cowling on and it'd be ready to go, but we got to get the inspection done. So I think I'm going to have time. I got to call somebody and see if I can get them here to inspect it now. The hurry is over on it. The need is over on it. I've missed the spring part of the season, the herring season, and so the salmon portion of it, the main body of the season, will start in mid-June. See if I can get somebody to come and do it. Supposed to have a few nice days here in the next few days, and I'm going to see if I can get that cowling sanded down and painted. I've been wanting to do that for a while. I've got to mix up some paint for the back of those wing struts where the rust was showing on them, where I sanded them down a little bit, and I could paint a couple other things, just spot cover a couple other little things, but I wanted to repaint the cowling, so I can take the chance now to do that, I hope. Anyway, this is pretty much done.